Oh, it's such a beautiful morning. You hear all the squirrels yapping at each other and the birds all chirping. It's beautiful out here. So recently I've had a lot of people ask me what they can do to get their garden started. And I think for pretty much any hobby, any endeavor, it's good to have successes. And so just planting things that you know will be successful is great. Like I'll tell people, like, what do you like to eat? What do you like to spend money on that's a plant? Some people tell me pumpkins, and I'll say plant pumpkins, or tomatoes, so I'll say plant tomatoes or whatever. If you're thinking about what's high in energy or what's going to keep your family alive, if theoretically the grocery stores stop receiving food because truck drivers decide fuel is too expensive. Some of you, I know I have had that thought. It's unlikely, but still possible, especially if they continue going at a certain rate. So I plant the things that I think that'll keep everybody alive, like potatoes and carrots. But anyway, I want to come and show you some of the successes I've had. And one particular one that I don't know if I've heard anyone say before. So come check this out and join me in the chaos. All right, so these are soybeans. And I've never had anyone mention soybeans before. And I don't think people realize how much stuff uses soy products. Something, though, that I really love is the little edamame pods. You can get them like frozen in the frozen section at the store, edamame pods. Stick them in the microwave for like 2 minutes and put like the big salt crystals on them, and you just pop them out of the pods and eat them. They're like the size of lima beans, but you know, when they're fresh, not dried. And they're pretty delicious. I love edamame. So anyway, I got the idea, hey, why don't I plant a bunch of soybeans? And so I kind of chaos seeded these. I've talked about this in other videos where I literally just took handfuls of these seeds because I got a huge 10-pound bag of these on Amazon for like, I don't know, like 20 bucks or something. I'll put a link just in case, because I know somebody's going to ask. So I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in buying soybeans from Amazon. So anyway, I scattered these around the garden. I wasn't sure what would happen because they're pretty dry. They look like they've been in a like dry state for, I don't know, at least a few years. I don't know how to judge how long they've been in a dry state. They just look very, they almost look like what is it called? Airsoft bullets. When I first got this, I thought it was airsoft bullets because I was used to the shape of these. But once you hydrate these, they actually will stretch out and look more like lima beans. For whatever reason, when they're completely desiccated or dried out, they're almost perfectly spherical, which really surprised me. So anyway, I scattered these all over my yard. Specifically this area, when I first moved in, this entire area was dead. So I kind of did a couple rows of potatoes, and I have onions coming up and a whole bunch of random stuff coming up just because I've been throwing seeds back here haphazardly. I know I put a lot of cantaloupe seeds. Here's a soybean actually. So you can see a lot more over here just because I didn't, spread them out or thin them very well. And this is a soil acidifier, in case you're wondering, because I'm trying to grow blueberries right here. They're not very happy. Anyway, soybeans. These soybeans are just popping up everywhere. And these are organic soybeans. They're supposed to be heirloom, which just means that they are supposed to be capable of open pollination, which means that these should be able to be pollinated and then create their own offspring, so I can just harvest my own seeds. I love harvesting my own seeds, mainly because when I have really successful individuals, taking the seeds from those individuals is very likely to yield more individuals that'll be successful in a particular climate. So I'll definitely be letting some of these go to seed. But with edamame, usually you take the young pods, like you'll get the young succulent pods, and you steam them real quick in a microwave or in a steamer, and then you just pop them out of the pods with a light sprinkling of salt, and they're just delicious. And these are really successful. I was surprised how successful soybeans are here. I talked to a couple people, and they're telling me that soybeans won't grow here, so of course I planted them anyway, and they're just popping up everywhere. And it's a legume as well, so in theory, soybeans should help amend the soil. And then just having a living root in the soil is actually really good, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But anyway, as you can see, soybean, 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 soybean. Most of these things that look like weeds that have two leaves, they're pretty much soybeans. I probably threw, I don't know, a couple hundred seeds back here. And like I said, you buy this stuff by the pound, and I think these are intended for sprouting. Like a lot of people love microgreens. So people that love microgreens will sprout different plants and then they eat the sprouts, which is a really economical way to buy tons and tons of a certain seed. So I love doing that because I just like taking handfuls of seeds and just throwing them in places in my yard, especially places that don't really have any food going on. Just throw a bunch of seeds over there, and before you know it, like magic, I have a bunch of new plants popping up. And I just love the idea of just foraging in my own yard. That's actually a couple nasturtiums. I also threw nasturtium seeds everywhere. More just popping up everywhere. Soybean. A whole bunch right here. I might have to thin those. I'll just leave them and let nature decide which ones will live. Tons of soybeans. Especially when it rains, you just have stuff just popping up everywhere. I'm just surprised. I wasn't expecting pretty much all of the soybean seeds that I dropped. You can see a bunch collected in this hole because I threw them by the handfuls. So there's soybeans popping up everywhere. So that's something I haven't really talked about before. Hey puppy. He's all confused because I'm not playing with him. Here you go. You want a stick? You want a stick? All right, go get it. Good boy. Okay. So as I was saying, soybeans, very easy to just throw seeds everywhere and then, come back in a couple months and you'll have soybean pods. So great levels of protein, vitamins and all that, but tons of macronutrients in these. I think that has pretty high protein content if you're worried about feeding your family. And then of course potatoes. I have a couple rows of potatoes there as well, but I planted these pretty late, so I'm kind of worried. I'm hoping I can get a good harvest before it gets too hot. Probably won't. But I also planted this in a kind of spot that only has a few hours of sun, so it might be cool enough here that they can make it through the summer and then have like a fall harvest. Watermelon over here. I like this little area too because around the edges it's almost like a raised bed in a way. This retaining wall kind of behaves like a raised bed. So I have like cantaloupes, and I think I have a watermelon over here. Lots of loofah. My family uses a lot of loofah instead of buying sponges from the store. We'll just grow our own loofahs. In Arizona, I grew a lot, so I planted a few loofahs over here. Loofah. A lot of asparagus. These are actually purple snap peas as well. Also seem to be successful. I bought like a 1 pound bag of those from Gurney's or something like that. More, I think that was honeydew. Oh, cool. And then my water spinach is coming up. I put some of these seeds down. These do really well in Arizona. I wasn't sure how they would do here, but at least they're sprouting. But pretty much everything sprouts in moist soil, so that's not too surprising. Anyway, this video is getting really long. Made my point, I think. If you haven't thought about it, consider buying soybean seeds and growing soybeans. I like them fresh, but I know some people like to process them and turn them into, how is it called? I know it's gonna come to me right after I post this video, and I don't know. If you can think of the word, it's like that white, it looks almost like cheese. It's in a brick. Tofu. There you go. Tofu. Some people like processing this into tofu. I'm not really a big fan of tofu, but I do love unprocessed, fresh fruits and vegetables. And I guess technically this is the fruit, but you can call it a vegetable because it's savory. My kids like to call fresh plant material, no, sweet plant material fruit. And then if it's savory, they like to call it vegetables. Honestly, it's all vegetation. I know I've had that conversation with a few people. If you're curious if it's a fruit or a vegetable, it's a fruit if it comes from the flower or from the ovary of the flower. And if it comes from any type that's, strictly vegetation, like stems, leaves, roots, things like that, then most people consider it a vegetable, botanically. But also technically the fruit is considered a vegetable, but the vegetable is not considered a fruit, if that makes sense. So this is vegetation, but it's not a fruit. this is also vegetation and it's a fruit. So it came from a plant, it's a vegetable. It came specifically from the flower's ovary, so it's considered a fruit. I mean, you might say it's a seed. Yeah, you get those arguments. But technically, if it comes from the ovary of the flower, then it's a fruit. And I guess this may or may not specifically be from the ovary of the flower. It's a part of the flower. Anyway, I'm not going to argue on that. If you want to start a little argument in the comments, feel free. It'd be fun to join in. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for joining me in the chaos.